how was Thanksgiving break? Good? Any family arguments, family fights? People you didn't want to see? No? Good time? Alright, good. Same here. Do we have any leftover presentations, or we're all done? Does anybody have anything to share? Business observations or anything? Okay. So, this will be our last week in class, so Thursday will be our last day. Next Tuesday, I'll put up the final exam at class time. It'll open up. And then, I'll give you a few hours to complete it. It'll look just like the midterm. So you know what to expect. And then Thursday, if you want to bring some snacks or anything, maybe we could talk about career potentials, things you could do with your resume, internships. You can ask me questions about my experiences. We get some opinions on things, right? But for today, we're going to talk about operations management. We'll kind of really just talk about this and information technology for the rest of the week, kind of wrap things up. But operations, right? It's towards the end of the course because it kind of consolidates everything all together. It really kind of emphasizes understanding all the moving parts and how you can make things better over time. Particularly what we're talking about with operations is how we can make things way more efficient and way more effective, and kind of how to balance the two, effectiveness of our service or our product and efficiency of reducing maybe the costs, eliminating the number of steps to get something done, eliminating suppliers that we don't need, distributors, just really looking at the bigger picture and making things work. So for example, let's say you were in a retail environment, say like a Starbucks, right? And you're the operations manager, which we'll probably be concerned about with is how many people do we have working today? Is today going to be an unusually busy day today? For some reason or another, you may think of, what does the weather look like, right? People, if it's going to be snowed in, people might do more online mobile orders. What is rush hour going to look like, both in the morning and in the evening? Also, too, how many number of steps does it take to make a caramel macchiato grande? How much time does it take to make that same drink? Right? Are we getting that drink made to where people in line can move quickly enough so they're not annoyed, not complaining, but also get the same quality drink that they expect to get, right? So all the little details. That's just kind of just one example where you could work in a retail environment. You could be the ops managers, we call it ops, and say, hey, I'm focused on the process. We want to be extremely efficient, but we also want to be very effective in whatever our daily goal is, whether it be a sales amount, hitting some sort of target, something of the sort. So this is what operations is concerned with, right? That's the kind of smaller scale. But on a bigger scale, you think of suppliers, distributors, excuse me, different manufacturers, excuse me, etc. All right, so what are we going to learn this chapter? The role and how it's changed over the last 50 years. So we'll talk a little bit about the history of operations management. Some of the key responsibilities of being an ops manager. Special challenges posed by the provision of services, right? Changes in technology has revolutionized ops management. Strategies used to improve the quality of goods and services, and how lean and green practices can help both the organization and the environment. So let's just think off the top of our heads. We're like, okay, we're in a very poor economy, and we sell Snickers. So what do we do so that we're extremely efficient and also effective? Well, to be effective, we still have to deliver what customers expect, a good Snickers bar. But like, we can't be so expensive to where people are like, you know what, I'll get a different, cheaper candy bar, a store brand, piece of chocolate, or I won't get anything at all. Right? What could we do? Well, as an ops manager, we're thinking of maybe we make the package smaller. We make the Snickers smaller. Well, if we make the Snickers smaller, we can't make it where it's so noticeable. Maybe we distract. We add some new flavors of Snickers, which you'll probably see when you go to the grocery store. Kind of like, oh, they got so many new flavors, versions of Snickers. Maybe that could be a thing to distract customers from the cost, right? The rising costs. All sorts of things. Where you even place the Snickers bars at, right? Maybe we should switch that up to some degree. Right? Those could be kind of some of the things that we could think of when we think of ops management. All right, so we're talking about here. Well, we're saying, hey, ops management producing value. This all comes down to value, right? You still want to give perceived value of a product, although the environment is changing constantly, right? Things are changing quickly, just the way we do businesses, because of AI, technology, the way people shop. Things are constantly changing, so we have to always be changing in how we produce value. So by classical definition, operations management is creating value by managing the activities that produce goods and services, and then distributing them to customers. Decisions impact a firm's revenues and costs, thus its overall profitability, right? So you are kind of one of the key ingredients to making a company profitable by looking at different strategies to eliminate things that you find unnecessary or modifying or changing things to make increase revenues or reduce costs. So like we said, hey, you know what? Efficiency is a major focus as well as effectiveness. So with efficiency, we say we want to produce output of achieving a goal at the lowest cost. Like, well, how do we achieve a goal at the lowest cost? Well, if we market something or advertise, that costs money. So depending on how much money we use to advertise and market, that means the product will also be more expensive because we gotta pay that money back, right? How many people in the distribution or supply chain touch it? How many people gotta deliver from here to here to here before the customer finally gets it? Maybe we said we've delivered 2 different companies that we've been using, maybe focus on one, maybe that lowered the cost, and we could also maybe lower the cost of the product, right? Or just the expense that it costs us to put the product out there, something of the sort, right? So that could be done with efficiency. And then we have effectiveness, right? Because customers will notice when maybe quality has kind of suffered, right? So what other way could we be effective? We said, just use what we have, right? I don't know, maybe we got smart employees and they could come up with new plans, strategies, right? Maybe we have the best technology, the best machinery, the best something. What could we do to use to create value by providing customers with goods and services that offer a better relationship between price and perceived benefits? So here we're saying there's a relationship between what a customer perceives are the benefits they're getting from the product or the good and the price, right? And there may be a threshold to where they feel like they're not getting the benefits that they want versus what they're being charged, right? Could you think of anything that you usually buy and you're like, I don't know, I kind of stopped buying it because they switched it up. Changed on me. The food don't taste the same. They're too expensive. The quality is not as good anymore, whether it be clothes, food, anything that you use. Can you think of something where you're like, I don't feel like I'm getting the same benefits that I used to get from this place? Whether it be a restaurant or clothing or a place that you go to. Anything you can think of. Any restaurants? You feel like it's not the same? Any food that you buy, you feel like it doesn't taste the same? Or it's too expensive? For me, Chipotle is one of the places, I used to go there all the time to get, obviously, a chicken burrito, or, people get the bowl. I don't know, I feel like the chicken doesn't taste the same. And so I'm like, because of that, I'm not coming, which means that I don't know if they got a new supplier of chicken, right? And the quality of the chicken's not the same, but something to me is off. Where like the last time I ate it, I was kind of disgusted. You know what I mean? It's like something I was like, I'm not coming back. Maybe I need a break, right? Maybe I'll be back, but I need a break because my last experience wasn't quality. It's not what I expected. Yes?
Now that you mentioned it, I think I once ordered, when I went to Chipotle and I ordered, I think the portions got smaller too for some reason. I don't know if you noticed that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did they change like the spoons or something? Like, cause the portions are way smaller. And then the quality overall, sometimes, I think I once got like, undercooked rice or something.
All right, so you're like, think about it. The operations manager is like, hey, the cost of food is rising, so it's rising for us too, right? The chicken, the rice, the beans, the veggies, sour cream, all this is going up. We got to do something, right? Either we make it super expensive to where people are like, nah, that's too much, right? Or you like smaller spoons, smaller portions for each scoop that you give each customer, right? So that they're not getting as much as they used to, but they're probably still paying the same amount or even slightly more than they paid before, right? To balance it out. So Chipotle, can anybody think of anything else? They switched it up on it. Panda Express, what did they change? Food poisoning. Yeah. Not good. Alright? Like, hey, you know what? Panda Express is not monitoring its controls on food. So now you're like, if you have one bad experience, especially when it's food, that's gonna linger a long time. You're like, I'm not going back there for a long time. But you don't wanna risk it. Although I love Panda Express. Yeah, I love Panda Express. I haven't had like a horrible experience yet. Hope not. But I love it. The kids love it too. All right, good. Can we say, hey, so that was efficiency, effectiveness, what you're getting, perceived benefits versus what you pay from goods and services. And we say goods are tangible, services are intangible products. Now, kind of the history of operations management. After World War II, the country, the United States, and Europe as well became, and Japan, right? Kind of all the countries involved kind of became way far more industrialized, right? So we're talking a lot more manufacturing. Because they involved in a world war, everyone had to pull all their national resources to make things in a mass amount, whether it be tanks, right? We're talking about military weapons, etc. And that knowledge that they got from mass producing military things, right? Contracting companies, kind of stuck and came back into regular consumerism. So the US kind of figured like, hey, what if we take the same approach? Now we just mass produce food, mass produce clothing, mass produce cars, right? Mass produce these things on a great scale. Like I say, a lot of countries afterwards start doing it. So you think of Japan, Honda, Nissan, Toyota, you know, Germany, right? Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes, right? Even Britain, who was involved, all their cars, and even here, right? We'd already been doing things like Ford and things like that, but we kind of took it to another level to where we could mass produce a ton of things, right? Standardized products that people need. People need cars, people need clothes, people need food and basic sort of needs. So that's kind of where it kind of came from. And so with that, the field of business actually became more scientific, like using scientific approaches to making decisions, right? A lot of math involved, a lot of modeling involved with that, and thus came kind of what we call now a field called decision science. And part of that is operations. So actually, like once you're towards the end of your degree, if you're in the business program, you'll have to take operations management. And you'll have to also take supply chain management. Those are like 2 of the 3 last courses you'll take before you graduate. And they're hard courses, right? Because a lot of them do talk about a lot of kind of modeling and mathematical models and stuff like that, right? Kind of how to pay attention in manufacturing facilities to look for defects. How do you think about that? Percentages, statistics, funneling, how to produce more things, people, all these sorts of things, right? So that kind of came after World War II, and it started to evolve over time because of technology, right? So we say, hey, technology grew, so we get this kind of theory of mass production, and we kind of moved to mass customization, which means that, hey, we're producing the same stuff over and over again, millions of it, but then people still have different tastes and preferences. So like, how could we still mass produce, but still customize certain things, right? Because there's different types of customers with different tastes and preferences, right? Once again, we say like the Doritos situation, right? Everybody loves Doritos, but some people like different flavors, right? Cool Ranch, Light Doritos, something, right? So like, it could all be on the same assembly line. You could mass produce all the same Doritos, just add different ingredients in different stages of the process, right? So now you can make all the Doritos in the same place with different flavors, and that can be kind of mass customization. That's what we're saying, right? Because people have different tastes and preferences. So we say with the technology, it now enables cost-effective production of small quantities of customized goods and services that more precisely meet the needs of specific customers, right? Or even specific businesses, right? Another major company that kind of was a leader in this was Dell Computers. Dell Computers, kind of before Apple computers really took off, and even Microsoft got in the game of computers, before Google got in the game of computers, Dell Computers was huge. And what Dell would do is they would allow you to customize each part of the computer. Pick your RAM, you know, your memory, pick your storage, pick your processor, all these different things in your own computer. So people felt satisfied. They only needed what they felt they needed. They didn't want to overpay for something they did not need. So allow people to customize. And people were happy with that, right? And that made Dell very successful, like in the 90s and the 2000s. All right, then we have from local competition to global competition, right? Once again, the internet came around, technology changed. All the world is been connected now, right? So we say, hey, at first the U.S. enjoyed advantages of abundant natural resources, educated labor force, infrastructure, and a marketed company, but then other economies rebuilt facilities with state-of-the-art technology. And so other countries got into the game, and now it's highly competitive in the global marketplace. All right, then we get supply chains, right? We say the traditional supply chains have extended to encompass a broader range of processes and organizations known as value chain. Right? When we say value chain, it's looking at the process once again, right? Can we eliminate things here? Could we improve? Could we eliminate people involved, right? The number of touch points in the supply chain, getting things from raw material all the way to the final customer, right? Whether it be building a car, and you're giving out iron, and you're giving out rubber from rubber plants, all the way to creating tires and creating the entire vehicle itself. Looking at all those different pieces, thousands of pieces, what can we do to eliminate costs? As opposed to exploiting the environment to protecting it, right? So before there was not much heavy emphasis with the EPA and other environmental government bodies that will look at things, regulations about what you do with waste, how do you dispose things, recycling, right? That came later. Because at first people wanted to keep costs low, used to me disposing of waste as cheaply as possible. That's all they really cared about. But now there's more socially responsible companies who kind of have green practices. And that's a business model, because in the minds of customers, they're like, I like this socially responsible company. Not only do they sell a good product, but you can recycle the packaging, right? They may give back to the community in some way for each purchase. They may donate money, but they're sustainable. They're a sustainable company that focus on doing ethical things, right? Being extremely ethical. Right, so these kind of all the things we just talked about, right? Some characteristics of operations management from 1962 forward, right? We just talked about these things. We said some of the factors, information technology improvement, global opportunities, competition, quality is a source of competitive advantage, right? Not just quantity. Adoption of marketing perspective and customer focus, actually caring about what each customer's feedback is. What do they feel their demands are? And then looking at the environment. This leads us to our first discussion. So I said we only got two groups, here and 2 and 2, right? Hey, let's explain the relationship between the operations management goals of efficiency and effectiveness. In the sense, maybe think of some examples where you go like, hey, I think this particular type of business may focus more on being efficient as opposed to being the most effective. Or on the flip side, like, hey, I think here's an example of a company that I think worries about delivering the best, perfect product regardless of the cost or price, right? That they're not really concerned about all that. Their concern is to be top tier, right? So maybe think of some examples that you could think of, right? Maybe whatever, the automobiles, clothing, food, anything you could think of, right? So I'll give you a couple minutes within your groups. Anybody need more time? Need more time? Okay. What were your thoughts?
So we were thinking about like fast food and almost like it needs to be efficient to get both fields like conveniences and the US business offer to people like a fast service, but also like consistent in like the franchise.
Okay. So McDonald's, so like McDonald's has to be super efficient because its business model is really fast food, right? Super fast. That's the expectations that customers have. Those also need to be effective because they are franchised, and so you kind of expect every owner to still be effective in delivering the product that people expect to, right? Still don't want a crappy cheeseburger, whether it's fast or not. It should be hot. Right? It should at least be hot food. In the back, what are your thoughts?
We were also talking about McDonald's, how they focus on like efficiency because they just want to get you your food real fast, and a lot of the times they mess up or like forget something in your order. We also said for cars, like the more luxury cars, they don't really focus on efficiency. Like you're just like paying for like the name of the car, like the look of it, and they're not really reliable.
Yeah, you're like, hey, some cars have a strong perception of luxury, but luxury doesn't mean practicality, right? So like a car, expectations of a practical car needs to be reliable, it needs to have basic things, right? Because think about it, why do you need GPS in your car if you have it on your phone? Right? Why do you need to have a monitor on your phone if your phone could be a monitor if you could just put it up in the window, right? Why do you need Bluetooth? You could buy a little $5 device from $2 device from T-Mobile and hook it up to their radio station or something, right? And you got Bluetooth. Like, why do you need all the extra stuff? Like, well, you need all the extra stuff because people want the experience of feeling like they're in luxury, whatever that may be, right? And some names carry that perception, right? Remember I tell you one of the most unreliable cars, but beautiful. It's my favorite SUV of all time. Number one, probably ever. It's Range Rover, right? So like you don't buy a Range Rover, you lease a Range Rover, because you will probably send it back in 1 year. You might send it back into the dealership like 8 times. That means 8 times you'll be having a loaner vehicle because your beautiful Range Rover has a lot of problems, right? But it doesn't matter. People are still going to pay for it, right? Because it's a Range Rover. So it makes people feel wonderful. And one of the other more notorious ones is Maserati. Everyone familiar with Maserati? You familiar with Maserati? The car? Notorious. So you could go on Facebook Marketplace and buy a Maserati that's like 5 years old for like $30-some thousand. The original price, just in like 5 years, the original price was maybe $200,000. So like, how could it lose $170,000 of value in 5 years? Because it's just meant to look good, right? And you shouldn't really own one, like finance one, I'm saying, or you can maybe buy one outright. But it doesn't matter because people are still gonna buy it because the effectiveness of the brand name and what that means to people, right? Overrides anything efficient, right? Because it has nothing to do with efficiency. If anything, it's about waste, right? Like it is have complete waste. And remember I said that's why the greatest kind of area of business you can get into is luxury. That's why I look up the guy Bernard Arnault. He owns Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, LVMH. He's like the 3rd or 4th richest person in the world. He's been up there for like, I don't know, 10, 15 years. Right? And what does he sell? Luxury. Louis Vuitton, champagne, I don't know, I think they may own Prada, Gucci too, or something, I don't know. Right, they own a bunch of them. All the ones you see, they own a lot of them. Even watches, they probably own like 20 brands of luxury watches. They own them all, which means they control like the cost, but they still sell expensive stuff. Right? So they make a lot of money because people's perception is that I should pay, you know, $1,000 for a Louis Vuitton bag. Should you? I don't know. Is it worth $1,000? If it makes you feel good, it is, I guess, right? So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's how it makes people feel. Either they feel exclusive or luxury or different, and they don't want to be associated with normal brands. Okay, excellent. Here we got a couple more other questions. Hey, when might it be more important to prioritize efficiency over effectiveness? I'm thinking here, like, when do you think, like, what kind of business do you think where efficiency matters way more, besides McDonald's, because we already talked about McDonald's, over effectiveness? Hey, do you generally give this is kind of more of a personal question, do you generally give priority to either effectiveness or efficiency when approaching tasks? When you approach things, are you more about effectiveness or being efficient? And then which type of manager would you prefer to have? One who prioritizes efficiency or one who prioritizes effectiveness, and the why? So talk about this within your groups for a few minutes and we'll see what we have with that. Anybody need more time? All right, let's see. Let's see who's gonna win big today. Everybody remember how to play, right? Alright, let me know if you need a hit. Or you're gonna stay. Need a hit? Anybody else need a hit? Good. Alright, let's see what the dealer has. Alright. I get 16. I'm gonna hit. Alright, I'm out. I went over. Alright, what do you have? Altogether, what do you have? 22. 25. 17. 14. Okay, good thing to stay. Yeah, it takes some discipline. Right, so think about it, like at the casino, you have to make a decision, right? Because you're playing with multiple people. So you gotta have some discipline to know when to stay and when to hold. All right, what are some of our thoughts on these? What were your thoughts?